if you want to engage with the dime, if you want to have some type of exchange, at the minimum, an intimate exchange, a sensual exchange, or a sexual exchange, how do you do that? Where do you find them? And what are the levels of dime pieces? So just like with any other observation or presentation that we make, we have to understand what the levels are. And once we have those levels, that will inform how you approach. And so when we think about what a dime piece is, what I say a dime piece is the popular projection or the accepted popular notion of the feminine ideal. Okay, and basically that comes across in her physical presentation, that comes across in her social presentation. And really the essence of femininity is cooperation. And in this culture, in our culture currently, that's a foreign concept, obviously. In the mainstream, however, you only see 1, 2, or 3 levels or echelons of dime pieces in the mainstream media or popular culture. And when I mentioned that at first, maybe like a couple months ago, a lot of people didn't even realize, or I don't think it registered what I had said. Some people caught on. Rom definitely caught on. But when I say that there are echelons of dimes, so like right now in popular media and social media, we see what I call the IG or the Pedestrian collection of dime pieces, and those are the ones who got hundreds of thousands of followers, probably even in the millions. But they're accessible. They can pop up from anywhere. All they have to do is put on what I refer to as the Kardashian motif, right? Those of you who, of course, got your copy of the seduction scriptures, you know what I'm talking about when I say that. The smoky eyes, the big eyes with the pouty lips, the wide hips, that the hip to waist ratio is taken in. And as I said before, that Kardashian motif is being passed on from Kim's type with the larger presentation onto the Kylie type. And we're seeing that. I predicted that transition a year ago, and we're steadily seeing that take place. Kylie's taking over popular social media platforms, especially TikTok. She's taken over the sort of political space. Remember, they had her out front promoting, these protective measures earlier last year, and just really looking to position her to be the next it girl in popular culture. But again, like I said, that represents just the Pedestrian collection. And what do I mean by a collection? Well, if you remember when I break down female group hierarchies, right? At the top of that female group hierarchy is the queen bee. And the reason why the lower tiers within that hierarchy collect with that queen bee is so that they can move and negotiate social spaces as a collective. And the whole purpose of women getting together in a group or hierarchy is so that the ones who are lower in the pecking order can elevate their status. Nature automatically provides a complement or a system for a woman's navigation of the environment. That's, of course, the man. Now, obviously, in this current society, we want to call it the postmodern or developed world, a lot of the traditional roles that were taken care of or balanced and maintained by the man or the masculine presence has been outsourced or offloaded into the greater society, has been mechanized, has been automated to an extent. when we talk about provision, when we talk about protection, the methods or the units of provision have been digitized. A woman can get Cash App as opposed to having to go to a well or having to grow a crop and bring it to market and sell fish that the guy caught. All she can do now is download an app on her phone, and she can get units of value that used to take days, weeks, or even months of labor in order to produce. And so that, in harmony with the protection element, we don't have to build houses anymore. A woman can just rent an apartment. And when we talk about Dyme specifically, they have those luxury apartments. They can get flown out to a location. They can get put up in places. So the provision and the protection element of a man's perceived intrinsic value. We'll get further into that, into level setting what value you really have as a man in the spaces in proximity to dimes. We'll get into that a little bit later, because that is a question that comes up a lot. A lot of guys are asking, especially on coaching calls, I get a question, because men see it from 18 to 88. They see that a lot of our intrinsic or historic intrinsic values have been outsourced and automated. So in the space of seduction, in the space of game, in the space of man gets woman, the modern man often finds himself asking, what is my value? What is the value that I can present to a woman in exchange for her beauty, her femininity, her presence? That's just the baseline. That's just the 5, 6, or 7s. When you talk about the 8s, 9s, and even the fabled dimes, most men have no clue, okay? And so when we look at the different levels of dimes, most men can't even qualify in their mind them being in their spaces, let alone being able to interact with them, let alone being able to be intimate with them, and let alone being able to pursue some type of meaningful relationship, some type of, I call them exchanges personally, because, and we can get into this later, what my position on the state of modern relationships is and is shifting into. We can get into another point, but above that we have what I call the pop culture collection. And I'll mention some spaces that the pop culture collection navigates or moves around in. So one pop culture collection would be pro sports cheerleaders, okay? Beyond pro sports, another example of pop culture dimes would be the Playboy models or the Hooters chicks. Even though that the Hooters, they can be arguably the Pedestrian. But the thing about the pop culture dime is that they have a higher level or higher threshold of entry, whereas with the Pedestrian dimes, all they need is a camera phone, right, and an IG account or a TikTok account or a social media account, and they're in, okay? And from there, they'll click up with other quote unquote pedestrian dimes, and they'll use that vehicle or that collection in order to navigate the space and get what they want out of that arena. The higher level or the pop culture dime, like I said, NFL cheerleaders, NBA cheerleaders, MLB ball girls, right? They have to try out. They actually have to meet a minimum requirement for entry. They have to be fit. They have to be able to take choreography classes. But the other side of it is that they don't get paid anything, okay? I think NBA cheerleaders get like $50 a game. NFL dancers, they get about like $75 or $100 a game. And that's on purpose. That comes all the way from the front office, from management, from the ownership. And they do that because they realize that these dime pieces, that these exceptional women, these gorgeous women with these amazing bodies and, you know, these great presentations, they're around some of the wealthiest men in the pro sports arena. Okay, so that's just the second level, okay, of the echelons of dime pieces or the dime piece collection. So you got the pedestrians, you got the pop culture. Above that, you have what I call the industry professionals. And so what I mean by the industry professionals, think about Victoria's Secret models, okay? That would be what would be considered as industry professionals. Any type of structured modeling agents or modeling consultants or modeling associates would be considered industry professionals. And obviously, I like to use the example of Victoria's Secret models because there you have a premier collection of dime pieces. Now, we know that the level of entry for the pedestrian collection of dimes is very low, okay? Just a smartphone and Wi-Fi. The level of entry for the second level, the pop culture, is a bit more challenging. You have to qualify, you have to compete to be in that space. Now, the third level is, of course, even more stringent for entry. Now, there is, of course, a step above that. We've already covered the pedestrian level or the pedestrian collection of dimes. That's the example of the IG models. The pop culture, which is the second echelon of dimes. That's the NFL or the pro sports cheerleaders or the Playboy models. Now we have the third level, which would be the industry professional, the Victoria's Secret models, the MAC models, the professional international modeling company models. Now let's take it to the fourth echelon. That would be what I call the Pedigreed collection. And the Pedigreed collection includes the pageant ambassadors. Okay, this is your Miss Teen USA, your Miss USA, your Miss America, your Miss World, your Miss Universe. Okay, the Miss Universe is the most coveted pageant crown. That's because, and for the sake of the other sections of this presentation, I'm going to use that standard for when you're observing a woman, because the pageant standard is really the ideal standard for the feminine presentation. That's because the requirements to compete in pageants are above the tiered standard of even industry models. Okay, I'm just gonna read to you the 3 requirements to compete in the international pageant stage. We're talking about, Miss America. We're talking about Miss Universe. The first requirement is that you have to meet the age requirements, and this is unapologetic. They don't do these, participation trophies. Everybody's no, they don't do that. The first requirement is this: age. She must be between the ages of 18 and 27. This is for Miss Universe. As of January 1st, within the year of competition, which means if she is one day over 27, she's out. Okay. If she's 17 transitioning into being 18, they'll accept that. But the rules are she has to be 18 to 27. That is the window. And we'll get into what I call the dime space continuum in a minute. But that's the first requirement in order to compete to become Miss Universe. The second one, she cannot be married. Contestants may not be married or pregnant, have ever been married, had a marriage annulled, or given birth to or parented a child. The third requirement to even compete within the pageant world at the global level, international level for this universe, is contestants are judged in 3 categories: evening gown, swimsuit, and the personality interview. So a woman has to be able to present in a swimsuit, meaning that she needs to be physically fit. She has to be able to comport in evening wear, which means she needs to have enough presence and social IQ in order to show up and arrive and comport at a black tie affair. And third, she needs to be able to articulate her values. And when we talk about the barrier for entry, okay, beauty is just one thing. It's the type of beauty. It's that natural beauty. It's the type that's groomed to the point of being pedigreed. But wait, there's more. When you go and you consider what would be considered the highest or the stratospheric echelon of dime pieces, this would be the royal or imperial collection. Now, this one is basically inaccessible to the vast majority of men. However, I'm using the words premier and imperial because if you type those into a browser, you can actually pull up these things. These are the systems of bringing collections of dime pieces, meaning the feminine ideals, together. And they sit above the pageant level because these women, who are referred to as royal consorts, who have positions within positions with active kingdoms, you know, even if the country is run by, you know, a governmental system, if they still have the traditional, you know, kingdom system or the emperor system, they definitely have, you know, a deep set of premier collections. Historically, they've been known as royal harems. We can get into that at another point because we have a Western version of the harem. But that is the 5th echelon of dime piece collections. These women are bred and raised and specifically pedigreed to service high-ranking nobles and royal officials. And even within those imperial collections, they have ranks. And what's interesting and what's actually curious is that those imperial rankings within the imperial collection of dime pieces, and I didn't know this prior to doing research for this particular presentation. It's just funny how this worked out. Anyone who's familiar with my presentation of the Select Man's roster, okay, you know that I've got 5 levels on that. Top is the queen bee, second is the ride or die, third is the healer / creative, fourth is the PYT or the pretty young thing, fifth is the satellite, okay? When we take that, sit that on the side, and we look at the 5th echelon, the highest echelon of dime collections, here's a breakdown. And you can go to Britannica, you can go to Wikipedia and just Google the imperial harem or imperial court. And here is the ranking within that structure. It's crazy. Up top, you've got the empress. Second, you've got the imperial noble consort. Third, you've got the noble consorts with an S. Fourth, you've got consorts. And fifth, you've got imperial concubines. Can't make it up. I did not have that knowledge base prior to researching this particular subject for the presentation. I just happened to come up with the 5 levels on a Select Man's roster from experience, from observation, trial and error and refinement. Like I said, the game is international, and it will always, always, always come full circle. So this first part, I just wanted to make sure that I addressed the 5 echelons of dime piece collection.